Welcome to the AI to ROI podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Evan Schwartz, the Chief Innovation Officer at AMCS Group. I'll be covering three primary topics with Evan today. First, AI adoption optimization, the importance of governance, ethics, and stewardship. Second, two external agentic AI use cases around dispatch management and customer service. And third, an internal AI ROI case study at AMCS Group around reducing churn. So with that, Evan, could you please take a moment to give a brief overview of your journey to becoming a guest here on the AI ROI podcast?
Sure. Thanks, Ray. Early on in my, illustrious career, I fell backwards into software and development and computers and found that those were very, very easy for me to get into. And I started my career doing games, and that lasted for a little while until I fell into what I consider the resource intensive industries, or the wealth industries. The first one was in natural gas. Had an opportunity to build their full-on ERP system. It was a little company called Infinite Energy. Their slogan was "Got Gas." We played around with that for a while. And that went really, really well to see a gamer's mindset into the usability side of business software. It was fairly new. We hadn't talked about UX. And that kind of led to the value journey all the way through natural gas into pulp and paper, efficiencies around back office, billing systems, ERP, which led into the secondary fiber, OCC, DLK, and recycled waste, got into scrap metal and all kinds of other industries and the ancillary side industries that they feed, chemical industries, everything. So that sort of just led me on a lifelong career of building software systems that directly interface into people, into the human component of business, trying to find ways to make business more efficient and profitable. And that's kind of led me here on the AI journey. As we've kind of looked over the last year and a half, I would say there's been a lot of tripping, a lot of hype, a lot of discussion about AI, but not a lot of understanding of how to get there, a lot of focus on the technology. So hopefully today you and I can clear up on, while the tech is fine to interesting to focus on, the real answer is to come back to people, governance, ethics, to get to where, if you want to get anything that's valuable out of AI today.
Okay, Evan, let's start just with a brief 30-second overview of AMCS Group, what you do, because then we're going to get into your first foray into launching AI as part of that solution. So tell us a little bit about the company first.
Yeah, so the short answer is AMCS, Services Resource Intensive Industries. So anywhere where you're having to collect in bulk any type of material, or you're providing services in bulk, where you're going out and providing those services. We manage the logistics, all the back office, the customer relationships, the management, the history, the billing, anything to deal with fleets. If you've got vehicles of fleets doing services or performing services or collections, we manage all the fleet maintenance, the logistics, the pickup, the materials, the validation, all the way out to the sale of those materials, including the accounting.
And you do this in multiple countries around the world, right?
80 countries around the world. AMCS has their systems driving these efficiencies everywhere. Performance sustainability is a big deal to us.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons you're here on the AI to ROI podcast is because as Chief Innovation Officer, you have responsibility for making sure you have AI integrated into your solution, your platform. And I think there was some testing on messaging about how does this impact your customers? And you started with employee replacement. Tell me a little bit about the feedback you guys received on that.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of push, and there's a lot of private equity, a lot of investors in the companies of the customers that we serve. And if you look at AI and look at the efficiencies, the obvious first choice is I can do a lot more with a lot less. So what is the natural number one cost for a business? It's human resources, it's people. So I understand the propensity to drive towards headcount reduction. And that was the first year and a half of headcount reduction until you get AI out of the lab and into the real world, and then you start finding out it doesn't behave the way it did in the lab. The controlled conditions did not produce the output you were looking for. And unfortunately, if you made the tragic error of laying people off before you were able to get that return on investment in the wild, you found yourself stuck. You were having to rehire that reduced headcount at significantly higher margins to try to get your footing back on the ground. It didn't work out.
So it sounds like, but you quickly, you as a company pivoted to, it's not about replacing employees, it's about scaling more efficiently into the future. Is that it? Kind of increasing revenue per employee, et cetera, going forward?
That's exactly right. So when we saw right away that everybody else was running at an immediate result, we were still looking at the governance ethics, because being in 80 countries around the world, we have to be GDPR, we have to be SOC 1, SOC 2. We have so much compliance around the industries that we serve. We didn't just jump at the end result. We don't do that for anything. We're a process-driven organization. We look at the process, how do you build efficiencies, how do you maintain governance? And so we were still there looking at a lot of our competitors running at an AX result and getting just terrible results. And in our early indications, we saw, man, we're not seeing those terrible results, but we also adopted a person plus AI strategy. We saw it differently flipped. Rather than reducing headcount as a cost reduction, that's a finite game. The best you'll get is zero on that, right? And even then, why? Why are you going to zero? I don't think you'll achieve it. As opposed to asymmetric growth. The ability to take the resources that have decades of experience, that's context, by the way, has a deep understanding of your business, but have enabled them to do more, to be able to grow your business, not just percentage points, not 20% better. We're talking multiples, 2, 4, 6, 8 per times the value that you were able to get before without having to input any additional costs, because you've now amplified the capability of those the people underneath your organization and being able to enable them to get things done. So our person plus AI strategy is core to that, and that was derived out of the ethics and governance approach that we took to AI.
Well, let's go ahead and pivot to that, because when we first spoke, you really highlighted the importance that your customer feedback was about, hey, we need better policies, governance, and frameworks. In fact, I believe that you built an AI framework at AMCS. So can you tell us a little bit about that framework and how that incorporates the foundational elements of better governance and better ethics when deploying AI?
Sure. So because we sit across so many countries around the world, and if you look at Europe, the EU AI Act and NIST and a variety of other people came together and put some really strong governance models around AI. What good looks like, what bad looks like, what moral, ethical use of AI was. So we adopted that right away, and we built a framework that allows you to enforce, because we're 80 countries, some rules enforce more stringently than others. And the entire framework looked at this from a governance and ethics perspective, which forced a very important question. This was the pivoting aha moment for us. We came at it from a person plus AI. We came at it from governance and ethics. We used the frameworks that were out there and we codified those. And it forced us to build a use case design framework that asked, what should AI do? That one question, that one difference where we started going, what should it be doing as opposed to what can it do, which was the most common question out there, forced us to put a lot more thought into how it was applied. And one of the first applications was reducing what I call the necessary but low value workflow steps. Squeeze that down to AI. I have to do these to be able to do what I need to do, but they don't provide the value. And then squeeze those high value activities into my humans, and we started seeing multiples of output doing that, keeping that creative high value activity into my people resources and then delegating down to the AI. And that created the stewardship framework, that just building those systems forced the humans to sit as stewards across a variety of orchestrator agents, sub-agents, which became a digital workforce to basically delegate what I would consider repeatable excellence, which is burdensome to humans, and let them worry about the things that are creativity, human-to-human interaction, things that have high value to your business, leave with your people, and let AI handle the rest of it.
Yeah. You're pretty far advanced compared to a lot of companies. So I'm going to double click on this word AI stewards,
Okay.
right? Because a lot of our listeners to CEOs and CFOs out there, they need to be stewards of their AI initiative. But then once you develop these agents and sub agents, right? Are stewards humans, or can an AI agent be a steward of all the sub agents?
So the agent that is controlling the sub-agents, it is an agent, it's called an orchestrator. But the steward is human. That's where the accountability lies, is with the human. So your AI stewards has three very strong skills. They're great communicators. They understand the technology, not the nuts and bolts and all that techie stuff, but they understand how to ask questions to get results. They know how to form a task to the orchestrator. They also understand the context of the data that is available. If I were to ask you, Ray, to go do something, I know you need at least this pieces of data to be able to accomplish that task. You need to know who you need to interact with, what are the activities to write it down, what information do you need to make good decisions so that you can build out a workflow to do it. The orchestrator takes those two things in from the steward and works under the hood. What data elements and context do I have through things like model context protocol, MCP, maybe sub-agents that are really good specialists at very narrow activities to keep their repeatable excellence high, and then runs the activity. The steward then comes back into play with the result. I don't have to know the answer, but I need to know what good looks like. And what we found is most senior business operators are very good at that part. They can look at a bunch of numbers right away and go, that's wrong. I don't know what's in there that's wrong, but I know that number's wrong. I know it's skewed. I know that's not right. That's not how our business runs. That's an important skill for an AI steward, to be able to see what's wrong and then be able to back in and go, why did the AI hallucinate? It's only two reasons. Either I asked it something in a vague way, or I provided data or lack thereof, data context for it to be able to do its job. Which means for it to accomplish the task, it had to reach into its own LLM to fill the gap. And that's where you get in trouble. I try to remind specialists or business owners, AI knows everything there is to know about business in your industry, but knows nothing about your business and the way that you operate. That's a huge chasm that AI has to bridge. The human steward is that bridge to the real world. And those stewards have dashboards that keep things on the rails, make sure that all these AIs are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because otherwise AI sprawl will get in there really quick. We have companies right now that are like, I got 100+ applications running around my business. It's impossible to maintain them. Imagine thousands and thousands of these agents. So having that framework to be able to see the governance, the observability, know that they're staying within those governance and ethics rails, and then lining your business up with these AI stewards that are driving this orchestration, that's where you get the multiplicative capabilities and product out of it.
Yeah, one of the things I kept thinking about after our first conversation was 80 countries, right? So you have to build the local regulatory environment within your frameworks by customer and by country they operate in, right? So that's part of your, how do you manifest that in your AI infrastructure?
So the great thing about AI and governance is it works really well with natural language, right? So it's a set of governance rules, it's a set of markdown. So as we deploy within a governance and region, we already have GDPR, we already have protected systems that keep data localized, keep configurations there, and it's granular from region to country, maybe sometimes down to individual customer. Every customer is going to have specifics that they want their agents and their activities and their systems to run at, and where data can flow or not flow. So most of those rails were already in place for us because we had to have that system in place, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to operate even with our standard process flows. Even though I didn't have an agent doing it, data still had to flow. The value of building this agentic system on top of your SaaS system or on top of your foundational system is that's where all your context is, all of it.
Gotcha. Makes a lot of sense. Well, we are the AI to ROI podcast. That's why you're my guest today. So we're going to move to a couple different case studies.
Okay.
Right. And as I thought about this, vertical AI is getting a lot of hype, right? Because you got to know the domain really well. Where you have, your ICP, a lot of companies in the recovery waste management industry, large fleets.
Yep.
So you mentioned to me your dispatch management agent. So can you share a use case and the ROI on that one?
Yeah, so it starts with the planning of the routes. Imagine being able to optimize your routes. So that vehicle is running, that vehicle is burning fuel. I want to be able to run that optimally. And I need to be able to manage my empty rails if it's a roll-on or roll-off container. Having a truck drive with nothing on the back of it's not making me money, right? That takes real-time logistics and dispatch. So our agents are always looking for opportunities. Someone calls in, I can reduce the time to go all the way back to the yard to get a container, and I can just empty this container and take it midway to a new customer and then go pick it up. I'm making money. So having those agents look at that is just an obvious, easy step. But when you start moving it out into the customer service realm and what happens during the day, real-time dynamic activity, a common use case is stuff's going to happen in the middle of the day when the driver's out doing the route. And for some reason, the driver can't pick up that container. Now, maybe it's a restaurant and your bread delivery truck is blocking your container and I can't get to it. Right? And you're one of my VIP customers, and I've got 10 restaurants around the town. My truck's not going to sit there and wait for this bread truck to move, so it's going to move on to the next one. And I just missed one of my key VIP customers. Before, I might have to wait to the end of the day for that driver to come back and tell me he didn't get it, and then we have to reschedule it, or that customer's going to call upset that their container didn't get serviced that day. Now I've got a problem with the customer to service. But I know that that driver didn't pick up that container because I'm seeing all of that with the IoT tech on the truck. The mobile in the truck tells me that was a missed pickup. Why wait? The agent knows we missed the pickup. The agent also can look and go, that's a VIP customer. This isn't Evan Schwartz's house with his 90-gallon, container at the end of the driveway and his big red pickup trucks blocking it. This is a valued customer. So I'm going to go ahead and get it rescheduled for 5 p.m. today. I'm going to send a notification based on that customer's preferred method of communication. Is it SMS? Is it email? Is it some other way? Get that message to them going, Mr. Customer, we missed your pickup. Here's a picture of your bread truck in the way, but don't worry, I've already got you scheduled for a 5 p.m. pickup. We're going to get you later today. I've taken care of my customer. I've avoided a call-in because the agent already knows it, and I've given special treatment to one of my VIP customers. Come back to Evan Schwartz, who's got his big red truck blocking a trash can so a side loader can't pick it up. Sorry, Mr. Schwartz, here's your form of communication. Here's a picture of your truck blocking your container, but here's a pay link if you would like to pay to have a truck come back out later today and have me service it. Otherwise, I'm happy to pick you back up on your scheduled day next week. Thank you for being a valued customer. Those decisions can be happening in real time with the agent. And those agents can feed and inform collections agents, material for late fees, being able to draw in how old or aged your revenue is. In the first month of operation at one of our customers, we were able to bring in from a 90-day age revenue to 30 days, $650,000 of revenue that they hadn't seen in so long. They just took it off the books. It almost felt like new cash flow coming in, that it had gone out there and just been this way for so long. Just having an agent actively being able to participate in the collections of this revenue. On top of we manage 700,000 plus trucks globally around the world, and we reduce the fuel costs on optimization by 17 gallons of diesel a month. That is a lot not burning into the air. So the
17 gallons of diesel per 700,000 units.
Yes, you would multiply that across those. That's on average per truck across those is 17 gallons of diesel a month in savings through optimization. That's exactly right. That is a ton of fuel not being purchased and not being burnt into the environment. It's a huge success story. That's our point of performance sustainability. It's scalable, it's sustainable, and it's profitable. You don't have to separate the two options. And AI is giving us the ability to look into those connective tissues and amplify the capability of the resources we've got.
Yeah, and in the last 30 days, diesel costs went up $2 a gallon, right?
Yeah.
So I do the quick math, and we're talking millions and millions of cost savings for your clients.
Easily.
But you also mentioned, and I'm going to go back to our earlier part of the conversation, the governance framework.
Yeah.
every country has a little bit different regulatory policy about can the AI agent actually talk to a consumer or an
Yeah.
individual. So you got to have that pre-built into the software also, right?
And it is, and it's even extensible to our customers. So let me sort of paint this picture. We have every system in the world has APIs, so you could hire a developer to interact with the APIs to do stuff. And we have built-in workflows as well. So this model context protocol, its sole purpose is to teach to an AI agent how to access those APIs to automate things. So let's just look at a standard customer onboarding. One of those at our first level is to read and write data into our database to actually load a customer in, get their address, their name, their service agreement, all that stuff. And that's all it does. But if that's all it did, that's not very helpful, because when I've got a new customer, the first thing I need to do is get a container delivered so that I can service the customer in most cases. Well, that's our built-in business rules for that region, for that area, for that container type, highly categorized, compartmentalized. So now, built out of the system, when I onboard a customer and ask the agent to do that, sets it up, saves the data, gets the delivery order set up, does all that stuff. But let's just say that you wanted to go a little extra mile. By just describing to the AI onboarding agent, hey, I want to do something different. I'd like to send a welcome letter to each one of my brand new customers. Thank you for joining our insert company name here. You're a valued customer. We want to let you know a little bit about us, blah, blah, blah. So now that agent, anytime a customer is onboarded, it does the writing, sets up the customer, gets the contract, gets the delivery order, and oh, by the way, we'll go and write this email or this text message and send it out to that customer. And that all that took was someone to describe how I would like this agent to behave a little bit differently. That is stacked behavior. It does the reading and write, it does the rules that our system expects, plus the customer can add on their own rules. Now that hierarchical method is what allows us to do this across regions, sitting at a global level, across our national accounts. We have global customer accounts as well that have to operate differently. In the United States, sometimes that's by county. Even counties have different rules and regulations on how you're able to operate. You're not going to get the most efficient business if you have to water down to the lowest common denominator, because it's too hard for your business to give each one of your customers across county lines a unique experience. AI enables that capability without me having to burden a human to go and dig up and look in all these contracts to see, how am I supposed to treat this customer? How am I supposed to treat that customer? It's too much. So you almost end up throwing it away or giving those services away for free. With AI, I don't have to do that.
Now I kind of crossed the dispatch management agent and the customer service agent, right? Any other kind of external use case or customer stories you'd like to talk about with the customer service agent?
Another strong one that was some internal learning for us that we were able to apply into our software was our customer success. So every business in the world has a group of people who will call out and make sure that their customers are doing well, are getting the best value out of their products and all of that stuff. And we're no different. We have customer success agents that have a book of business, and their job is to call in, check on the customers, what can we do? But it would be impossible for us to have a one-to-one. Every customer gets their own customer success agent. So there's only so many that we can physically make conversations and talk to be able to make sure that we have a high customer satisfaction list. But there's a lot of activity. Every time I call you, Ray, as a customer, and we talk, and when you have maybe some problems, I've taken a bunch of notes. When we get off the phone, I have to put all that into an email, maybe load it into my CRM. I have to send you back an email confirming that we did it. Maybe it involves our product group. Maybe it involves our other areas and departments, so I have to task those, get schedules meeting. Imagine us having a conversation like this. Everything's recorded, everything's turned into text. AI can take that. I can go on to my next call, and AI will look through what we discussed, pull out all those action items, send the email, schedule all the meetings, follow up on everything for me. I can now add 2 to 3 times the number of touches to my customers than I could before, because of all of the low value but necessary work. That's what we're talking about. So now that AI can do that necessary but low value work, the high value is me talking to my customers. We were able to reduce our churn factor from our 6% down to 3%. And we're seeing that repeatable over and over and over again, because look, we're not going to be perfect. No business is perfect. But if I'm talking to you and we're working through it, you're more likely to walk through this with me and get to the end, because you know I'm working on it, I care, we're trying to solve problems. But if I've got so many customers in my book, I can't make those calls. Maybe I call you once a quarter. That could be too long, too late, right? That's the value that AI is enabling business. It's just how you interface it into your business.
Well, that's a really good financial ROI metric, my churn rate, because if I decrease it by 50%, I can multiply that by my existing customer revenue and pretty quickly say I just added millions and millions or saved millions and millions
Easily.
of revenue. But I wanted to kind of step back a little bit because you also have a lot of involvement in your internal AI initiatives, like we just talked about. What does it take at AMCS Group to really justify an investment in AI for a particular department or process and get approved? How structured is that for you?
So we've been working on this for about a year. We're gonna be targeting our first run at ISO 42001 compliance at the end of the year. Now that's like ISO 27000. It's all the compliance, SOC 1, SOC 2, all the things.
Can you talk about, just real quick for the audience that doesn't know what 42001 is?
So it's the regulation or the standards body that says if you're doing all of this right, you would qualify as ISO 42001. So this is what right looks like. You have to register any AI you use, whether it's built in-house or external. You have to do a battery of tests on it. Does it have biases? Does it have risks? Would it be willing to do something it ought not do? And you have to run it through those battery of tests, and you have to log those in a registry. We're using this AI for what? What is its biases? What is its risks? What are the mitigations you're doing to offset that? Did it work, right? So that registry is the first body that we have to go through. We audit it on that. That goes across our products, and all of our internal use tools that we're using in our business lives within that registry. Then the second piece is, all right, so what are you doing with it? It's great that you have maybe Anthropic and OpenAI and all this other stuff. What are some of the use cases you're running against it? And then what is the value returned on that use case? So the use case in our world is we're governance first. What should it do? Use case second. What is it you're trying to do? Part of that use case is what are you expecting the ROI to be? In other words, which means you need to know what your metrics are now. If you were to do this today, what is the return on investment? Why am I hiring this person to do this job? And what do I expect to get out of it? Which one of my board level metrics, EBITDA, free cash flow, what's managing my SG&A costs, all of that? Which one of those metrics does it move the needle on? By adding AI, how much more am I going to move it minus its costs, right?
Evan, I got to stop you there because you said something really important, because I see so many executives today saying, hey, I'm going to improve this person's productivity. I can compress time. Where you started was with board level financial performance metrics and how am I going to either increase revenue, decrease costs, et cetera. That's really important. And I think a lot of people miss that step.
You're right, because you can fall into the trap of, I've saved myself 3 hours today. Great. What does that result into? If you're targeting the board level, I may in fact get to a point where I've shaved 3 hours of my time today. What am I doing with those 3 hours that move that needle? It forces you to not just stop what I call lazy intellectualism at that first gate. You have to go all the way to the end to how are you impacting the board statistics? And it forces you to think. And we learned this through our route optimization software, by the way. As we put it out in the world, we would run this with our customers. Customers say, hey, great, you just shaved 40 minutes a day off of every truck. I can't cash that check, right? That truck's 40 minutes, there's no money there. I still have to pay the guy a full day's work. For the truck to sit in my yard for an extra 40 minutes isn't money. But to reorganize all of my routes where I can take those 40 minutes and compress them together, I might be able to park 3 trucks. Well, the average cost to a business when you factor in insurance, risks, maintenance, and all that, it's about $1 million a year. So if I could take 13 trucks, reduce it to 10, and still provide the same service to an area, that's $3 million a year, bottom line, free cash flow I'm putting back into the till for our CEO to meet its fiduciary responsibility of growing the business. That's huge.
That's a really good case, because I talk to heads of departments all the time, and they just said, well, it's hard to really measure how it's going to impact cost because I don't want to lay off employees, but it's what we talked about earlier today. Hey, when you can start scaling your revenue with the same amount of people, that's going to be less cost per dollar, so EBITDA and net income is going to go up.
So let's talk about that for a second. Back to the customer success agent. If I would have stopped where it gave the most value to him, the CSR, is he was able to do less work because he was able to talk to the person and AI did the rest of the work. Okay, well, you freed up nearly 5 hours of your day. What are you going to do with it? Well, I can call more customers. And that calling of more customers is the piece that dramatically impacts my churn rate positively. Yeah. So that gets down to, if you don't understand your current process, and this is where I see most of the mistake. Most of the people going, they have a general idea of how their business runs, they have a general idea of the process. Take the time to really draw it out and then go, is this a high value item or a low value? Low, that goes to AI. Is this a high value item step? Or okay, we're keeping that one with a human. Once you've redrawn out those processes, it now starts to become very obvious. Okay, now you've freed up this much more time of that human. What other high value activities can that human be doing that's positively impacting your board statistics? That's got to be where you focus all the time. And you're going to be surprised, like we were, it's multiples. It's not percentage points.
You know, our time's already coming to an end, so let's give the listening audience a chance to know you a little bit better with 3 rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
Number 1, what variables are key to ensuring AI investments are generating ROI? Just real quick summary.
So what variables? Understanding your use cases, having existing measurements so you know what your baseline is, and then having a goal, a target. Set the target. Even if you're not sure you can hit it, set it. It forces you to think differently.
Who should own measuring and reporting that return on investment from AI investments? Is it a departmental manager? Is it centralized? Is it finance?
Who should own it? The budget owner. For that department that's going to be authorizing the spend of the AI should also be accountable for the return on investment.
I love it. The budget owner. And trust me, Mr. Budget or Miss Budget Owner, you'll get help from the CFO if you don't.
Yeah, you'll have a finance partner if your business is structured properly, but right. You own it. You're accountable for it.
And then the third, and this is because I really want to help early career people because there's so much concern about the career in an AI era. What advice do you give to that recent college graduate about AI in their career right now?
Oh, this is beautiful. Stop valuing yourself by the product. Value yourself, your identity, by your ability to produce the product with AI. I say this all the time. We've got bits and pieces of this everywhere. You know, rapid prototyping, 3D printing. I can print the same thing you can print if I have a 3D printer. That thing isn't worth anything anymore. But the ability to create the file to get it to print, worth a lot. That knowledge. We're getting there with AI, but across everything. The ability for me to get AI to produce is valuable. Don't tie yourself to the output. That's almost zero value now if AI can do it. Right? So if you were very good at doing Excel reports, don't worry about that. Get really good at getting AI to generate hundreds of those things. That's the value. And if I ask you for a different question, figure out how to get it to do it again. Anyone can copy your prompt. That's not valuable. What's valuable is for you, the steward, to be able to get that AI to produce.
I love that. So the leaders of tomorrow are the people who can lead an army of AI agents to produce more, faster, better, cheaper. I love it.
There you go. There you go.
Evan Schwartz, Chief Innovation Officer at the AMCS Group. Thank you so much for being my guest here on the AI to ROI podcast.
Thank you, Ray.
And to our listening audience, if you're finding value from the conversations like we just had with Evan, it'd mean the world to us to go ahead and subscribe to the AI to ROI podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Go ahead and give us that 5-star rating and DM me at Ray Reich on LinkedIn and let me know if there's someone you'd like to hear from on the podcast. Thank you, Evan. Thank you to the listening audience.
Thank you, Ray.